The entity that followed me. I'll never forget the first time I saw it. I was 16, home alone, sitting on the couch, scrolling through my phone. It was late, around 11 p.m., and the house was unusually quiet. My parents were out, and I was just trying to unwind before bed. I heard a sound, a faint, almost inaudible tapping. It came from the kitchen, like something lightly knocking on the counter. I thought it was the wind or the house settling, but when the sound repeated, I got up to check. There was no one in the kitchen, but as I turned to leave, I saw something out of the corner of my eye. It was standing in the hallway, a tall, dark figure, almost indistinct, as if it wasn't fully there. I froze, unable to speak, unable to move. It was just standing there, watching me. I blinked, and it was gone. Shaken, I brushed it off, telling myself it was a trick of the light or my imagination. But that night, as I lay in bed, I felt it, the presence. I couldn't shake the feeling that something was in the room with me. My eyes darted around, trying to find the source of the discomfort. But there was nothing. Nothing I could see, at least. The next few days, the feeling persisted. The tapping sound in the kitchen would come and go, but when I looked, nothing was there. I started to feel like I wasn't alone in the house, even when it was completely empty. I'd hear footsteps behind me, the soft scraping of something moving across the floor. But when I turned, no one was there. One night, I couldn't take it anymore. I stayed up, determined to catch whatever it was. And that's when I saw it again, standing in the hallway just outside my bedroom door. It was closer this time, its form clearer. Its face, no, it didn't have a face, was like a void, a blackness that seemed to absorb the light around it. I screamed, but the figure didn't move. It just stood there. And then it was gone, fading into the shadows. The next morning I told my parents, but they dismissed it as just an overactive imagination. But I knew what I had seen. The entity followed me for weeks, always present, always waiting. It never harmed me, but it made me feel watched, like I was never alone, even in the silence. I left that house after I turned 18, and I haven't felt that presence since. But sometimes, when I'm in a new place, I'll feel that same eerie sensation, the feeling that something is just out of sight, always following, waiting to make itself known again. The man in the mirror. I've always been a skeptic when it comes to paranormal things. Ghosts, spirits. I just don't believe in that stuff. But what happened to me a few months ago completely changed my perspective. It was a regular night, nothing out of the ordinary. I had just finished my evening routine, brushing my teeth in front of the bathroom mirror, preparing to head to bed. I didn't feel anything unusual. I didn't hear any strange noises or see any shadows out of place. The night was quiet, peaceful. But as I stood there, wiping my face with a towel, I noticed something strange. For just a split second, my reflection wasn't quite right. My image in the mirror seemed to flicker, as if someone else was standing behind me. I turned around, heart skipping a beat, but the bathroom was empty. I shook it off as a trick of the light, or maybe just my tired eyes playing tricks on me. But then, it happened again. As I looked back into the mirror, I saw a man. I could see his reflection clearly, standing right behind me, just out of my direct line of sight. He had a dark, featureless face, his features blurred, almost as if he didn't belong there. I didn't move, couldn't move, as I stared at this strange figure standing just inches from me in the mirror. I turned around, my heart racing. There was no one there. I checked the door. Locked. No one had entered. I looked back at the mirror, but the man was gone. At this point, my rational mind told me it was a hallucination, a fleeting moment brought on by fatigue. But over the next few days, it kept happening. Every time I looked into the mirror, I saw him. A shadowy figure, never fully clear, always just behind me. One night, desperate to understand, I decided to confront him. I stood in front of the bathroom mirror, staring into it, waiting for him to appear. And he did. This time he was closer, almost touching my reflection. I could feel the cold air in the room shift, like something or someone was right there with me. In the reflection, his hand reached out toward me. I spun around, my blood running cold. But there was nothing, no one, just me, standing alone in my bathroom. That night I couldn't sleep. I couldn't look into any mirror. The thought of that figure, always just behind me, was too much to bear. I moved out of that apartment soon after, and I haven't seen the figure since. But I still don't look at mirrors the same way. Sometimes, when I'm alone, I feel like something is watching me in the reflection, waiting. The whisper in the dark. It was around 2 a.m. when I first heard the whisper. At first, I thought it was just the house settling, the creaking of old wood, or the hum of the refrigerator. But the more I listened, the more distinct the sound became. It was a soft, unintelligible whisper, like someone was standing in the corner of my room, just beyond my sight. I live alone in a small, old apartment in the city, the kind of place that's seen better days, with peeling paint on the walls and the smell of dampness in the air. I'm used to the sounds of the apartment, but this was different. It wasn't just the usual creaks or groans of the building. It was a deliberate sound, and it was close. I tried to dismiss it, telling myself it was just my mind playing tricks on me. I mean, who doesn't get paranoid in the middle of the night, right? But then, the whisper came again. This time it was clearer, like someone was trying to tell me something I couldn't quite make out. I sat up in bed, my heart pounding, and strained my ears to listen. The room was pitch black. The only light came from the faint glow of the streetlight outside my window. I reached for my phone to check the time, but it slipped from my hands, landing on the floor with a loud clatter. I jumped, heart racing, as I sat frozen in place. The whisper came again, closer this time. "Help!" I bolted out of bed, turning on the light and scanning the room. Nothing was there. The apartment felt suffocating, the walls closing in around me. I convinced myself I was just tired, maybe hearing things from the building's old pipes or from some neighbors. But as I turned the light off and lay back down, the whisper came once more, right in my ear. "Help!" This time I could feel the breath on my neck. I jumped up, throwing the covers aside and rushing to the window. There was no one outside, no one near the building, just the empty, quiet streets below. I called my best friend, shaking, asking if he could stay over, but he was out of town. I tried to go back to sleep, but I couldn't shake the feeling that someone was in the room with me. I didn't sleep the entire night. The next morning, I checked the apartment again, but nothing seemed out of place. Yet I could still feel it, the lingering presence of something unseen. As the days went by, the whispering became more frequent. I'd hear it during the day, in the kitchen, in the bathroom, even when I was outside the apartment. It wasn't just the sound anymore. I began to feel like I was being watched, followed. Eventually, I couldn't take it anymore. I moved out, convinced that there was something in that apartment, something I couldn't explain. But to this day, I still hear that whisper every now and then when I'm alone, and I always wonder if it's truly over.